A long time ago, there were 3 curious children who loved to explore the wilderness near their home. The children's names were Oscar, Amelia, and Marcus, and they lived in the small town of Bankhead, which lay at the foot of Cascade Mountain in the Canadian Rockies. One sunny morning, Oscar, Amelia, and Marcus got up early to take a hike to the wooden trestle bridge at the edge of town that crossed the river that flowed from Lake Minnewanka. The bridge was old and made of massive wooden beams. This wooden trestle bridge was very important because all of the trains that ran in and out of Bankhead had to cross this great wooden bridge. To their amazement, a large moose appeared in a grassy meadow on the other side of the trestle bridge. The children were in awe of the majestic animal and watched in silence as it calmly grazed on some nearby grass. They were amazed by its size and beauty and could not believe their luck in seeing such a rare animal. As they watched, the moose finished its meal and gracefully walked back into the woods, disappearing from sight. After the moose roamed back into the forest, Oscar said, "My cousins are coming on the train today to visit us for an entire week. What have you got planned for them to do?" asked Amelia. "There should be a lot of things to do," said Marcus. "It's the middle of the summer, and there should be no end of possibilities to take them on some great adventures." "I thought that we could go swimming at the lake, buy ice cream at the general store, and maybe take a long hike along one of the mountain trails," said Oscar. "Well, I hope we can join you," said Amelia. "Sure thing," said Oscar. "I wouldn't have it any other way." Meanwhile, it was earlier that same morning that Oscar's cousins, Aiden and Caden, were getting ready to leave their home for an exciting journey to Bankhead. They had never been to Bankhead before, and it would be a 4-hour trip before they were scheduled to get there in the afternoon. Oscar said there are lots of things to do and see in Bankhead, said Aiden. "And they live in the Rocky Mountains," said Caden. "I wonder what things they do that are different from what we can do in the prairies, where you can see for miles and miles with the open skies." "I guess we will find out," said Aiden. "I can't wait," said Caden. "A full week of playing and exploring in the mountains will be great." Once aboard the colorful train, Aiden and Caden settled into their seats, getting comfortable for the long journey ahead. The train chugged along the tracks, passing picturesque landscapes along the way. Aiden and Caden chatted and laughed, their spirits soaring high with excitement to visit with Oscar and Bankhead. However, what they didn't know was that fate had a different plan in store for them. Back in Bankhead, there was a logging train heading towards the Trestle Bridge. Then, as the train made its way across the trestle, something went terribly wrong. Suddenly, the logs slid from under the chains holding the logs in place, and logs fell onto the tracks as the train crossed the trestle. With logs on the bridge, there was no way for Aiden and Caden's passenger train to reach the town. Not knowing what lied ahead, it was just as the train approached a beautiful old bridge that the boys and the other passengers on the train felt a sudden jolt, and the train screeched to a halt. The children peeked out of the windows and were astonished to see a train stopped ahead, blocking the entire bridge. The conductor explained to the passengers that it would take some time for the tracks to be cleared and for the train to resume its journey. Aiden and Caden exchanged worried glances, realizing they were now stuck on the train until the bridge could be cleared. Aiden and Caden looked out of the window and saw the giant logs that had fallen from a train car onto the tracks. "That looks like it will take forever to clean up," said Caden. They were frustrated and disappointed that their journey had been interrupted. They have traveled all this way and Bankhead was just on the other side of the bridge. The once joyful atmosphere inside the train turned into one of tension and frustration. "I told you we should have packed our suitcases more quickly so we could have taken the train yesterday," said Aiden. "The suitcases weren't the problem," said Caden. "It was you who tried packing things that don't fit into a suitcase, like your baseball bat and your goldfish." Just when they thought they couldn't bear it any longer, one of the other passengers approached them with a gentle smile. She told them a story about a time when she had been in a similar situation. She asked them if they knew any games that would help them pass the time. She also shared some snacks with the boys and talked about her plans for her visit with her grandchildren in Bankhead. Slowly, the children began to calm down and the frustration turned into acceptance, knowing that there was nothing they could do to change the situation that they were in. She talked to them about the importance of being patient and staying calm. "Have you ever heard the saying, 'Good things come to those who wait'?" she asked. "No, we haven't," said Caden. "It means that sometimes we need to be patient for some of the good things that happen to us. Some things wouldn't be special if they happened too often or if they happened right away." "I suppose that is true," said Aiden. "Think about how much more we will appreciate being in Bankhead now that we have to wait a little bit longer." "That's a great way to see things," said the passenger. They took a deep breath and reminded themselves that they were all in the same boat, waiting for the tracks to be cleared and repaired. They were allowed to get off the train to stretch their legs and get some fresh air. Just then, they heard a sound coming from the other side of the bridge. It sounded like another train approaching. While standing outside, they saw what looked like another train with a lot of train workers and a big crane get pushed into place in order for it to hoist the logs back onto the train. "How long will it take?" asked Aiden and Caden to the conductor. "Don't worry," said the conductor. "The train workers have lots of equipment and experience when it comes to train mishaps. For sure, this is not the first time they have to lift logs onto the train. Once it's all cleared up, we will be there in no time at all." "That sounds good to us," said the boys, as they stood and watched with the train conductor, realizing that they were actually having a great adventure themselves, watching the train crew working hard to clear the tracks. As the hours ticked by, their impatience gradually faded away, replaced by a sense of acceptance and calm. They realized that sometimes life throws unexpected challenges our way, and the only thing we can control is how we respond to them. Meanwhile, on the other side of the bridge in Bankhead, the children saw Silas, who was the track foreman. "Don't worry, children," said Silas. "I know it looks like an impossible job, but we do this kind of thing all the time. All sorts of things can go wrong from time to time when it comes to trains and all of their freight. Sit tight and be patient. We will have this all cleared before you know it," said Silas. Silas got back to work with the other railroad workers. Oscar, Amelia, and Marcus watched in amazement as they lifted the logs one by one back onto the train. Finally, after a few hours, the track was cleared and the train started to move again. The logging train made way for the passenger train to pull over the bridge and into the station. Aiden and Caden said goodbye to the other passenger and thanked her for all her words of wisdom and the time she took to spend with them. They got off the train just as Oscar, Amelia, and Marcus spotted them and came running over. "You made it," said Oscar with excitement. We sure did, said Aiden. It just took a little longer than expected, said Caden. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's get this adventure started, said Oscar. Aiden and Caden were relieved and excited to have reached their destination. As they got off the train at Bankhead, they realized that the experience had taught them an important lesson. They had learned to be patient and calm in a difficult situation, and they had also learned to make the best of a challenging situation by finding ways to occupy themselves and remain positive. There are a lot of peaks and valleys for trains to get around in the foothills and the Rocky Mountains. This meant that the rail workers had to build a lot of different types of bridges. Some bridges were small and simple. Some were very, very big and very, very complex. The tallest and longest steel trestle bridge in the world is in Lethbridge, which is a city located in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. This bridge is a full mile long and more than 300 feet high. It took 2 years for the workers to build. And after more than 100 years, it still exists and is used by the Canadian Pacific Railway to this very day. If you stand in the park below the bridge today, just think about how many trains would have rumbled with their freight over this enormous trestle bridge in all that time.